Hello everybody. Welcome to this another lecture on the communication networks in SOC systems. So we've already talked about the communication network and its need because when different IP blocks they are used or the different subsystems they are used in designing of an SOC system, there has to be a standard protocol and an interface which is required for these subsystems or subblocks or IP blocks, whatever you refer them, to communicate with each other, to send data, to exchange data and information with each other. So this is constituting the intra-chip communication. So SOC integration, which we have already seen is the most important part of SOC design. So this integration, when we say, it will actually depend. Integration means different things coming together and working as a system. So that will definitely depend upon the communication network, which is the backbone of this interconnection. So there is interconnect architectures, and in the platform-based design methodology, the architecture is also used. It is it is reused. Like AMBA architecture is there. Normally, the communication architectures which are popularly used uh, in the SOC system designs are AMBA is there, Avalon is there, and IBM Core Connect is there. So these are the popular networks which are being used. Okay. So this communication network can either be a bus-based interconnection or it can be a network on chip. So network on chip is definitely a higher level, a complex level, but definitely it gives the improved performance and higher bandwidths, lower latency and improved speeds, but definitely at the cost of increased system complexity, routing, power dissipation, which comes along. Okay, so let's see. So we will just discuss briefly about NOC, but we'll get into some details on the bus-based interconnection. So whenever we are talking about interconnection, it is in the this communication. It is organized in two layers. You all must be aware about the OSI layer model or the TCP/IP model. So there are layers into which the this hierarchy is organized, how the information it is traveling. Okay. So at the upper level or the highest level is the application or the user interface which is there. Okay. So it is dealing with the user interface or the user who is going to interact with that particular product. Next to that is the transaction level. So transaction level is the communication layer which is dealing with the point to point transfers between these virtual components. So all the operations between the virtual components or the transaction initiation, termination of transaction, these can be software controlled. So these are handled by the transaction layer. Below the transaction layer is somewhere where the implementation starts coming, and here we talk about the bus architecture. Bus architecture can be a layered architecture or it can be a simple bus system or a complex bus system as AHB, or more than one type of speed can be allowed in the buses, multiple masters that can be allowed. So all these things they are coming at this bus transfer level where the protocols or the rules or the interfaces they are being defined for the transfer of information between the two components. Okay, and finally is the physical layer, which is the actual implementation layer, and it is the closest layer to the actual hardware, which deals with the physical wiring of buses, drivers, how the wiring is being laid down, what is the width of the wiring. So all these things they are coming at the fabrication and the processing technology that is coming at the physical layer. Okay, so these are the four layers of communication into which the communication is being organized. Now, coming to the bus based architecture, so generally it is a group of point to point connections which is through wires. Okay, so bus system, when I say, it can be a simple bus, that is like the peripheral bus, that is the advanced peripheral bus system, or it can be a complex system as the advanced high performance bus. So I am talking about AMBA bus architecture. I perceive that all of you must be aware of what AMBA is. AMBA stands for Advanced Microcontroller Bus Architecture. It is a standardized architecture given by ARM, which is used popularly in SoC design systems, though different generations of AMBA have evolved. So now we already have AMBA 5.0, which is the fifth generation of AMBA, which is having different kinds of buses, including the coherence bus, the trace bus. But we'll confine ourselves to the three basic buses, that is the APB, Advanced Peripheral Bus, then AHB, that is Advanced High Performance Bus, and AXI, that is Advanced Extensible Interface. Okay, so the bus, it connects several components with a single shared channel. So there is a shared channel, but communication is at a time taking place only between one receiver and one sender and one receiver. Yes, broadcast is also allowed on this bus system, so receivers can be multiple, but normally in the bus architecture, at a time, the control of the channel is only at, with one of the one, you can say, master or the initiator, you can say. Okay. So, as I told you, though it is essentially a broadcast medium, but it is meant for particular components and it has to be ignored by other components which do not require that information. So, the advantage of the bus system is it is quite a popular method which has been used since beginning, since the evolution of the digital systems, and it is easy to understand and interface. And the other is it reduces the amount of the pins which are needed to communicate between the different units, okay, without any loss of performance. So this is the typical SoC bus architecture. So we can say there these are the buses. Okay, so these buses, they can work on the same speed, they can work on the different speed depending upon what are they controlling. If they are connected between the memory and the this processor, they are definitely going to be on the high speed line. Whereas if they are going to be with the peripheral, then they can work on the lower speed peripheral bus speed. So normally for that, bridges are required to manage the speed change or the speed shift between different buses. Bridges are normally used. So we have divide by 2, divide by 4 buses which are going to divide the clock frequency of the CPU by that particular number, by 2 or by 4, and reduce your bus and match it with the peripheral speed. Okay. So this can be a bottleneck. That's why advanced system was there where your multiple speed options they were given. So normally these are the popular bus architectures as I told you. AMBA is there. AXI, actually, if I tell you, that is a network on chip. It is advanced extensible interface. This is not a bus system, but it is rather a network on chip which has been added to AMBA architecture for complex SoC designs. And then there is IBM Core Connect. So what is the bus width? What are the frequencies supported? These all you can see. So definitely we have a lot of speed difference which is going to be there between the network on chip and the simple bus system, and a lower latency which is going to be there, higher bandwidth which is going to be there. Okay. So Virtual Socket Interface Alliance has actually standardized the VC interface for these on-chip peripheral buses. Okay, so even if a peripheral it is not able to, it is not at the speed, they may require the wrappers, which are nothing but interfaces, standard interfaces, which are required by these peripherals so that they are able to match with the speeds, bus speeds which are recognized or usable by the system. So coming to the bus hierarchy, so one by one we'll cover the bus hierarchy, then the bus components, then the arbitration schemes, and then we'll talk briefly about network on chip. Okay. So coming to the bus hierarchy, so in a Any processor-based system, typically there is a hierarchy of buses which goes from the highest performance, most timing critical bus to the lowest performing bus with which is least time critical. So at the top of this hierarchy, it is a processor bus which connects the processor to its cache, the memory management unit, and the co-processors. So the basic instructions and the data from the CPU they are carried on this bus. So definitely affects the performance of the CPU and is generally designed to give the highest performance using the given technology. And since its configuration it is varying with the processor, so it is not considered as you can say the protocol or the medium for interface with the VCs. Okay. So at the next level, that is next to this processor bus, is a high performance system bus. So it is a high speed bus which is used for performing the system operations, and it is connected to the processor. So it is typically pipelined. There are separate data and address lines. So usually it has more than one initiator, which requires it to have some form of arbitration scheme. So when I say initiator, the initiator is actually a bus component which is responsible for initiating any transaction. Okay. The processor has a bridge between its internal bus and the system bus because of that speed difference which is there. So I told you earlier also, bridges are used for stepping down of the speed. So this system bus it usually contains the memory controller to access the external memory for the processor and the other blocks which may require the memory access. Okay. And the lowest level of the hierarchy is the peripheral bus. Usually there is a bridge which exists between the peripheral and the system bus. So it is meant for the slow speed peripherals. So it is much simpler in design, slower and smaller. So it is having a relatively easy to implement interface with lesser of loading. So normally it is used in order to avoid the bottlenecks on the system bus due to the slow speed peripherals which are attached. Okay. So this was all about the bus hierarchy. So next we move to is okay. This is uh, the AMBA 2 version. Okay, the second generation of AMBA, which included the APB and the AHB. So it is not including AXI. ASI was introduced in the AMBA 3. So ASI actually, as I told you, advanced extensible interface, that is a network on chip. So this is only the bus structure what we are talking about. So this is my high performance system bus which is there. So there is external memory, there is a processor, RAM, and DMA which is connected to it, and there is a bridge which is leading to the uh, step down of the speed so that it connects to the peripheral bus, and peripheral bus is connected to all the peripherals, the input outputs which are there. Okay, so EHB is a high performance pipeline operation. Multiple masters are there. Burst transfers, these are the mode of the operation which is there. So ASB system bus, that is high performance again. It is having pipelined operations. It also supports the multiple bus masters. So APB it is typically low power with latched address and control lines. It is relatively simple in its interface and is suitable for peripherals. So the APB, that is generally an interface between the hardware and the software. It is easy to implement and it is easy to add the new hardware blocks. So just as you can see, these are the number of peripherals. So if new peripheral has to be added, it can be easily added here, but at the same time, it limits parallelism and scalability is not you can say appreciated because though it is scalable, you can add new blocks, but it leads to the depreciation or decrease in the performance. So the performance it is suffering even if we add because there is loading on the this line which is actually dividing or which is routing to the different blocks which are there. So this is one problem with this. So it generally has a single master. So no arbitration is actually required for APB in general. Next we come to is AHB. AHB, it is a multi-master thing where multiple transactions are there. So it adds complexity, requires arbiter, supports pipelining, but obviously it makes the system little complex and requires more power. Okay, so this was the bus hierarchy we have just discussed. Next we come to is bus signals. Okay, bus based communication architecture. So in this we are going to discuss the different characteristics of the bus based communication architecture. In this we will discuss the bus signal types, the physical structure, the clocking, decoding and the arbitration. Different components of the bus based communication architecture. So coming to the bus signals, we are just going to brush up through these topics. We are not going into the details. So there are three types of signals that are generally present in a bus based communication system. There are address signals, there are data signals and there are control signals. So these address signals, these are used to transmit the data, sorry, they are used to transmit the address of the destination for data transfer on the bus. The number of signals used to transmit the address is typically a power of 2, that is 16 bit, 30, 32 or 64 bit, and that defines the address bus width. Okay, so it is generally taken as a power of 2, but that may not always be true in all the cases. It depends upon how the system is implemented, but this is what general um, thing is, okay, to define the number of address lines. So there is generally a single shared bus both for read and write operation, but with the advanced systems, they can have the separate address lines for read and write data transfers. Okay, the multiple address buses, they help improve the concurrency in the system. They help achieve parallelism in the system because both read and write operations they can be carried out in parallel. Okay, but at the same time that would lead to increase in the area and the power consumption. Next we come to is the data signals. Data signals, they are used to transmit the data values to the destination addresses. So again, there is a width which is being defined that is called the database bus width, typically 16, 32, 64 bit, whatever, depending upon the processor which supports the number. It varies from system to system. The choice again, the protocol or the way or the what type of information is being exchanged, that has to be pre-decided, whether it is BCD, whether it is binary, whether it is packed binary. So all these packed BCD or unpacked BCD, so all these things, they are uh, prerequisites for defined for the data signal lines. And then we have most important the control signals, which are used to send information about the data transfer, and they are specific to the protocol communication protocol which is being used. So there are request signals, there are acknowledge signals. These are the type of the example of the control signals which are used. Okay, so they can be the size of this control signals, they can vary depending upon how much or how, what kind of implementation is there of the system. Okay, so this was all about the signals. Next we come to is the physical structure. Typically the bus system, it can be either implemented as a tri-state control based system or a mux control based system or and or control based system. So we are not discussing each of this in detail. I'm just trying to touch upon what the types are, because otherwise it would be too detail of a single topic. Then we come to clocking. Clocking is very very important because of the synchronous bus system which is used. Okay, so it includes a clock signal which is one of the control signals. Even it may be required for handshaking. So, uh, synchronous buses, they enable the fast data transfers, but they may require the frequency converters at the component interfaces, as all the components connected may not run at the same clock frequency as the bus. Okay, so that may require additional components. That obviously requires adds on to the complexity of the system, but again, it facilitates or it adds to the reliability of the system. Okay, so they make use of the register slices. Now, what are these register slices? I'll just again talk about it briefly. Register slices, actually it is a way in which there is a trade-off between the latency and the operating frequency. Okay, so it was introduced in number 3 version uh, for the AXI, that is Advanced Extensible Interface, that is for the network on chip. Basically, it means when there are multiple masters and there are multiple slaves. I just like to take one example. So if there are, let's say, multiple masters, I'm talking about a network because this term it came with reference to, so these are the masters. So these is a network of masters and these are slaves, and master and slave. I'm just taking one example. So we are not talking about here about whether a master can be slave or vice versa. So that is another topic. I'm just trying to explain one thing. So this is the interconnect between the masters and the slaves. So now if the interconnect has a different speed than the component which is there, like this may be having a different operating frequency, and this interconnect is supporting a particular this frequency, and this is supporting some different frequency. So this register slice, they can be added typically here, okay, which acts as a buffer by adding to the latency and lowering the operating frequency so that there can be match between the communicating master and slave through the interconnect, because interconnect cannot be changed. It is there for all in a network. It is having the same speed. So if master, that connecting units, they are different and they have to work through a common, or they have to connect through a common platform, they may need the adjustment of their operating frequency. So the latency can be increased by adding these register slices, which are nothing but registers or temporary buffers, you can say, which will add to the delay and help in increasing the operating frequency or help in matching the operating frequency. So I hope I'm able to make this clear. So next we come to is decoding. So decoding is actually whenever the data is transferred on the shared bus, it has to be decoded by the desired destination component. So normally, as I told, bus is a broadcast medium, so it may be available to all, but only the desired destination has to take the data and decode that so that it can be used. Now, what is decoding? The address has to be decoded so that it is able to verify that okay, it was intended for me and it has reached its target or its destination. Okay, so decoder is required for this address decoding. Okay, so this can be either implemented as a centralized fashion or in a distributed fashion. So this is typically the example of the centralized decoding. So there is a single arbiter and there is a decoder. So these are the masters and slaves which are there. So the decoder will actually uh, decode that which of the address is intended by this arbiter for the target. Okay, so the centralized system is that the control scheme, it is you can say more synchronized, it is easily extensible, and what I mean to say is that because there is a single control, so it is easy to manage the things. Okay, so management is relatively easy, whereas this is the example of the distributed decoding where each of the slave unit is having its own decoder. Okay, so this is what the distributed scheme is. So there are fewer signals, fewer lines are there. Okay, but it may require extra signals, and adding may not be that simple because of the control, because decoder has to be added to each individually. So decoding logic has to be provided. So next we come to is the bus protocols. This we'll talk about in the next lecture along with the bus components, and then we'll just wind up our lecture on communication networks with some insight into network on chip. Thank you everybody.